And these are my Week 16 NFL predictions. Last week I went 12-4, and I am now 146, 77, and 1 on the season. This week, there's at least 3 division matchups that could decide who wins the division and who potentially could miss the playoffs too. So let's go ahead and start off with Rams versus Seahawks. Okay. The Rams and Seahawks are tied at 11-3 right now, and whoever wins this game could win the NFC West. And not only that, but probably end up as the number 1 seed in the NFC. In which you want that number 1 seed, because only that number 1 seed gets the first round bye in the playoffs. Now that 7 teams make the playoffs now. And back to this game. I know this game is in Seattle, but I just trust Matt Stafford in this game more than I do Sam Darnold. Because if you remember, Sam Darnold did not play well in that Week 18 game against the Lions, and also played bad in that playoff game last year, which I believe it was against the Rams. What a coincidence. But I'll pick the Rams to win this game. And it looks like we have 2 Saturday games this week. The first one being, says right here on my phone, Eagles Commanders, but okay, let's go ahead and do Packers versus Bears. Okay, there you go. We got all the teams popping back up. Okay, Packers versus Bears. These 2 teams played 2 weeks ago already, and the Packers won a close game, 20-21. And last week you had Michael Parsons get injured for the entire season because he tore his ACL against the Broncos. And also, I have to admit, Jordan Love did not play well in that second half against the Broncos, throwing 2 interceptions. You throw 2 interceptions in a road game, and that's a good recipe to lose each and every time. And this is another road game. Whoa, against a division matchup they always play against twice a year. I'm not very confident in picking this game, but I'm going to pick the Packers to win this game. And if they win, they retake the lead in the NFC North, at least by a half game. And the Packers would be the number 2 seed in the NFC now. Okay, moving on to the second Saturday game. Eagles versus Commanders. Not much to say about this game, but this should be an easy win for the Eagles. And that should give them the NFC East crown too. Now let's move on to the Sunday games. Vikings versus Giants. Yeah, these are 2 teams that are making the playoffs too. The Vikings they're the better team. I'll pick the Vikings to win, and they'll get their 7th win of the season. In fact, they could still end up with a winning record if they win out. We'll see. Okay, now let's move on to another very important game, and one that could decide the NFC South. Bucks versus Panthers. I I called it last week that the Saints were gonna beat the Panthers, and they did on a game-winning field goal. Well, I didn't say that they were gonna win on a game-winning field goal, but that's how the game ended. You know, the Bucks lost a close game last Thursday against the Falcons, and I think I trust the Bucks a little bit more than I do the Panthers. Who knows? The Panthers, they could be a year away from really competing in the NFC South. As for the Bucks, if they win this game, they're in the driver's seat to win the NFC South now. Falcons versus Cardinals. 3-11, the Cardinals, and 5-9. You know, since this game is in Arizona, I'll go with the Cardinals to win. Okay, Chargers versus Cowboys. You know, I know that the Cowboys, they lost last week to the Vikings, and I don't think they're making the playoffs, to be honest. But despite saying that, they've been up and down all year. One week they show up, and then another one they don't. Last week they lost to the Vikings. I think this week they win versus the Chargers. Okay, Jets versus Saints. The Saints are playing better football than they have previously. They won their last 2 games in a row. And this week, that yet another winnable game that I think they will win. And if they win, it'll be their 3rd win in a row and 5th win of the season. Steelers versus Lions. The Lions pretty much have to win out if they want to make the playoffs. Because right now they're at least a game and a half behind the Bears for that 7th seed. And then you got the Steelers, who are a game in front of the Ravens in the AFC North. You know, this is a hard game to predict. You know, since this game is in Detroit, I'll pick the Lions to win this game. You know, it also wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers won, but I guess I'll just go with the Lions to win. 49ers versus Colts. You know, I have to admit, Philip Rivers played pretty admirably last week against the Seahawks. It was the first game that he had played since January of 2021, I believe, when they had that playoff game against the Bills. And who knows, he might play, Philip Rivers might play decent in this game too, but I just think the 49ers are the better team in this game. And the 49ers would move up to the number 5 seed in that case. Okay, Chiefs versus Titans. Just like Michael Parsons, Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL last week against the Chargers, and he's going to miss the remainder of the season. And also, he didn't just tear his ACL, apparently he tore his LCL as well. So we'll see if Patrick Mahomes could come back next season in week 1. Who knows? And also, Gardner Minshew is gonna start for the Chiefs going forward, at least for these last 3 games left in the season. And also, the Chiefs got eliminated from the playoff contention last week. And who knows how this Chiefs team is gonna look without Patrick Mahomes. They might just be calling it a season now. And also, this will be my first upset of the week. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites. And you know what? I'm going to pick the Titans to win this game. This might be a crazy pick, but screw it. We're going to go ahead and skip this game for now because that's a Sunday night game. I don't know why it's right there. Oh, you know what? I just picked the Monday night game as well. You know what? Screw it. We're gonna go and just go like that. Screw it. Okay, Patriots versus Ravens. 7-7 Ravens versus the 11-3 Patriots. You know, just like I was saying about the Lions, the Ravens have to win out if they want to win that division. Because the Ravens, they are going to be playing the Steelers in Week 18. And that should decide who wins that division, wins it for all. But for the Ravens, they have to win this game. And I think they get it done. They'll move up to 8-7 and be tied with the Steelers. Bills versus Browns. Yeah, this should be an easy win for the Bills. And now the Bills would be tied with the Patriots with the same record. But the Patriots will still have the tiebreaker for now. Jaguars versus Broncos. You know, I'm not gonna lie, but Bo Nix had an amazing game last week against the Packers. And this game is in Denver. So I'll go with the Broncos to win this game. And it looks like they're probably going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. And also win their division as well. Raiders versus Texans. Yeah, the Raiders are really bad this year. So I'll go with the Texans to win. And how about that? The Texans would now take the lead in the AFC South. Okay, and for the last game for Week 16, Bengals versus Dolphins. The Bengals literally didn't even score last week. Let's see here. Yeah, they lost 24-0 to the Ravens. And the Dolphins weren't that impressive as well against the Steelers. But they always struggle in the cold weather. Since this game is in Miami, I'll go with the Dolphins to win. And plus, Mike McDaniel is pretty much coaching for his job right now. And I'm pretty sure they're eliminated from playoff contention as well. But I think the only thing left for the Dolphins to play for is to have a winning season. And they could still have a winning season if they win this game and their last 2 games as well. Now let's look at the standings now. Broncos 1 seed, Patriots 2 seed, Texans 3 seed, Steelers 4, Bills 5, Jaguars 6, and Chargers 7. With the Colts a distant 8. So we're pretty much starting to see who's going to make the playoffs in the AFC side now. All the teams. Except these two. These two might be decided in Week 18. Or even the Texans and the Jaguars too, but they both should still get into the playoffs, at least. Now let's look at the NFC side. Rams 1, Packers 2, Eagles 3, Bucks 4, 49ers 5, Seahawks 6, and Bears 7, with the Lions being one game behind. And the Cowboys are pretty much out. Well, that's all for week 16. Now let me know your predictions. See you later.